All right, well, we will reconvene to regular session at straight up 7 o'clock. Roll call, please. Ms. Bell?
Good evening, everyone. Mr. Ocampo?
Here.
Ms. Howe?
Here.
Ms. Nathan?
Here.
Mr. Murphy?
Sounds good.
Ms. Lahano?
Here.
Ms. Tejada?
Here.
Mr. Ojapinti?
Here.
Mrs. Zane Garrett?
Present.
Ms. Salahuddin?
Here.
And Ms. Jolie?
Here. Let's see. Ms. Nathan, would you lead us in the pledge? All right. Are there any changes to the agenda this evening, Dr. Gloria?
There are no changes.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve. Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. Item 9, approval of minutes. We have board meeting minutes, item 9A from September 17th and meeting minutes from October 7th.
Motion to approve. Second.
Favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. Nothing to report out of closed session this evening. And then we will move on to item 11A, installation of student trustees. And we will do each of you who are present one at a time. So we'll begin with Ms. Lahano. Come on up and we'll swear you in.
You know how to do this.
That's
Sharon.
right. You're a pro. You're a pro. So sweat.
Smile nicely. We're going to send these pics to your parents. Just like that. Go on, dimples.
No, it's like, oh.
I, Chanel Alejandro,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of California,
and the Constitution of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations. I state your name.
Joe Murphy,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of California,
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations. Ms. Nathan.
And you will be taking pictures of little ones.
I state your name.
Teresa,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of California,
and the Constitution of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties in which I am about to enter.
Congratulations. Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of California.
and the Constitution of California,
That I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
And that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to
the
enter.
duties
Upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations. And Mr. Capp.
I, John Ocampo,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of California.
and the Constitution of California,
That I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
without any mental reservation or any purpose of evasion,
And that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties about which I'm about to enter into.
All right.
Just in time, Ms. Cole, come on up. I state your name.
I, Tiana Cole,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California
the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of California.
and the Constitution of California,
That I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
without any mental
Reservation.
reservation or purpose of evasion,
And that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations. All right, item 12A, board report. We'll start at the far end of the table, Mr. Ocampo.
All right. Going back, October 5th, the Jefferson band won first place at the Festa Del Mar marching competition, so that was a huge victory for us. We were proud of ourselves. That same day, there was also a food pantry there. And so again, we helped any people who needed food. There's a lot of students that showed up and came to help give service. Also, there was a car show that day as well.
Busy day.
There were a lot of cars there, a lot of motorcycles, a lot of stuff, cool cars and things you could see. Last Friday, we had a coming out day at school, and during lunch, the GSA club at our school, the Gay Straight Alliance Club, they set up a sort of closet where people could go in and come out as an ally, come out as to support for others who are LGBT, and it was just really nice. There were a bunch of papers you could fill out that says I'm an ally because, and you state your reason. There were a lot of teachers, a lot of students there who came out to support, and it was really nice. And it showed that it's okay to talk about, LGBT and be, sort of normalize it in a sort of sense. This week, tomorrow is the SAT, and so all of the seniors especially, are stressing about it. Oh, well, yeah, a good amount of stressing about it. They're all wondering, studying, asking questions, and it's just sort of a little bit of a panic. The underclassmen seem like it's new to them. The underclassmen seem like it's new to them, so they're just gonna experience that for the first time with the PSAT, which is nice. And also this week is college readiness week at Jeff, and so there's the College and Career Center. There's usually reps by there this week talking about college, all that stuff. There's questions about college that are said on the announcements, and you can come by the College and Career Center to answer them for a treat. And there's stuff like, dress for your favorite college, stuff like that to, again, bring awareness that college is coming close, and yeah, to make people feel ready for college.
So,
So at Westmore, we had our first rally, and this time we decided to make it a unity rally. So instead of each class competing for more spirit points, everyone dressed up on white on rally day, so that to create a sense of unity. And it was pretty well received, and everyone liked it, enjoyed it, and really got the spirit going for a year. And last Friday was also International Foods Day, IFD, where Westmore clubs and classes, they sell different food items to the students, and some people were even joking that the clubs are feeding more students quicker than the cafeteria does. Most of the clubs sold out, and really it helped them fundraise.
And another thing that happened was that we're gonna have our first musical coming up. This is why my hair is like this. It's called Once on This Island. It's about a girl where she's an orphan, and she falls in love with this guy that she's never meant to be, and then she ends up dying for him, waiting for him, yes. So it's a tragedy. And also we're gonna have an annual Black W event where you're able to buy a ticket, and it's also sponsored from Filipino Barkada and Polynesian Dancing Club. And it's basically where you buy a ticket, see if you win a raffle or special prizes, and you eat unlimited pasta. And with those funds that they get, they go to any charity that they would like. And they also raise funds for the clubs. And also we had a youth conference, for the Daly City Teen Department. It was about our living crisis, where we talk about how our housing situation is very overpriced, and we try to come up with ways of how to fix that issue. And also for the past few weeks, some counselors visited our English classes, and they helped us to find pathways on what to do for our future. They said if you want to fill out the Common App, go here. Maybe the military is a better option for you, and all those other things. And that's it.
So last Thursday at Terra Nova, we had our 8th grade parent night. Lots of presentations by students and the principal, and just giving information about the school to prospective families. And then we had booths set up in the gym for a bunch of the classes, just kind of showing what the academics at Terra Nova are like, and just to put on a good face for prospective families, and show the some of the good sides about Terra Nova to kids who will be attending next year. And then this week, Spirit Week, for our homecoming rally on Friday, our homecoming football game Friday, and then the homecoming dance on Saturday.
Okay, so for Oceana, we're also taking the SAT and PSATs tomorrow, and our senior class actually decided to give money to provide healthy snacks to all seniors, as well as Kleenex while they're taking the test. And this whole month, we're going to be having a college month, so throughout the whole month, we're having workshops for help for financial aid applications and CSU and UC applications, as well as some activities during lunch. And this Thursday, we're going to be having our open house, and we're going to have different student speakers. I'll be speaking about Oceana's student body. And then we also have Senior X deadlines this week. So on Friday is our first claim essay due. And yeah, I'm gonna keep this short because we're gonna hear a presentation about Oceana soon too.
I always have to follow them. It's so unfair. They're so awesome. So I went to the Filipinx Lit Night in celebration of Filipino Heritage Month, and it was at the John Daly Library. It was hosted by the first Filipinx San Mateo County Poet Laureate, Aileen Casanieto, and the Daly City Public Libraries. And some of the poets and writers traveled from as far as New Zealand to be there. And their readings really hit me. They made me think about how I dealt with my race growing up and how I want to connect more to what it means to be Filipino today. And I think that coupled with the work we're going to be doing on race and equity, this is going to be a year of awakening for me. And I'm looking forward to it, but it's also kind of scary. Let's see, so Aileen asked me to bring high school performers to the event, and of course they were amazing. We had 4 dancers from Jefferson's Mission Fusion, and they did a swing dance, and it was so energetic. It was nice to get that going in that small room. And then there was Megan Palma, who's a junior at Jeff, who is a really powerful spoken word artist, and she just wowed the crowd. And so it was a really proud moment for me as a board member and as a kid growing up in Daly City. I also went to the Terranova Open House. You did a great job speaking. It was so well done. And it was nice to see a lot of my 8th grade families there. Even families who may transfer from Hercules to go to Terranova or one of our other schools. And they were just checking it was very inviting. They had a really great feel for Terranova. And I went to the dedication of the Bill Gray Stadium. It was really simple, but I think that's how he wanted it. And he was this unbeatable. When I was in high school, he was Bill Gray was this unbeatable wrestling coach at Oceana. And now he's got a stadium named after him, Terranova. He just, Mr. Pacifica. And Doreen Basuino spoke. Former Superintendent Mike Curley spoke. It felt like Old Home Week. And it was just nice to be there for that. Wish we won the game, but and also I went to this weekend the Kasayahan's Daly City Filipino Heritage Day. It was really nice, and also like Old Home Week, people I forget that we're all still in the same community and love Daly City, and so that's what I did.
Nice. Also got a chance to make it to a couple events at Terranova last week. It was good being able to get out there. A lot of energy too. So it was glad to see that. I know it's midway through the semester, and so looking forward to more events. Also, San Francisco State, it's the 50th anniversary of ethnic studies and the struggle to achieve that. And so hearing a lot of the things that we're doing in our community and things that we've been doing in many communities in the Bay Area, it's very reassuring to see that that movement's still very much alive at the higher education level and also the secondary level. So looking forward to more progress on that. And that's it for now.
I went to the Terranova spaghetti feed that night. I brought my whole family, so thank you for feeding us. All the students did a great job. Ran over to Westmore at the open house and caught the tail end of it and saw the wonderful exhibits you guys had in the great remodeled library, so it was fantastic. And I had the chance to go to the Daly City Youth Health Center and was part of the advisory board, and it was really nice to get insight and education on what they actually do, and so it was great. So I think that's pretty much most of what I did. Oh, and real quick, I am also selling Jamba Juice cards if anybody's interested for the Jefferson Council PTA, and also chocolates too, to raise some money for the Betty Schultz Scholarship. So I will be doing that all the way up to probably March. So if you guys, anybody needs some Jamba Juice cards, I'll probably try to come to the high schools too, maybe during after school, and see if anybody would like to take some off my hands, and as well as some chocolates. I'll have different things to offer. So if you guys are interested, I'll be over there and sell some stuff. So you're welcome to buy some.
So I did a lot of things, and I don't really get into that. What I do want to talk about is that the governor finished signing a lot of laws this day, and so some of it was good, like he vetoed SB 5, which would have taken money out of local property taxes that are dedicated to education and diverted that to low-income housing. While I'm all for doing all we can for low-income housing, I get tired of the state of California trying to balance everything off of the backs of education. They need to figure out ways to fund other items instead of constantly taking our money. So I'm glad that he vetoed that, but it was extremely disappointing to me that he vetoed the bill to give teachers paid maternity leave. I know that was extremely expensive, but when we're looking at trying to attract and retain teachers and staff, who wants to come into a profession where you know you can't get married or have a baby or go on maternity leave and still have a job here? So I would have liked to pass it and like him to find ways to fund these things, because if we don't start to get real about how we treat people who are educating our teachers, the pipeline is going to stay dry. So I am really frustrated with my state with our continued level of funding in the bottom of the nation. And then the expectation that we continue along like everything is fine and we can continue to do the work that we need to do for our students without the proper level of support. He also vetoed the bill to allow districts the ability to switch out the CAS for the SAT, which I don't get. I just don't understand that. I don't have a preference for either test. I'm not a fan for standardized testing, and the history of SAT is problematic. But I know that we live in the United States and that there's a reliance on this test. And if you're gonna listen to the students with the start times, which is another bill that he voted, that he signed, and that we do have to change our start times to reflect the science, then why don't we listen to the students when they say that they do not care about that test, they don't pay attention to that test? And if the students have said that, then they need to stop holding us accountable to the test that almost every student has been very vocal about they don't put their entire effort into. So to me, the state continues to be problematic and frustrating on who they listen to and who they don't listen to on these bills in a state that says we are about local control, but are constantly not allowing us to have governance over our own communities and our own students. So I'm going to continue to fight for the things that I believe in and the things I need for this district, but at the same time, I just wanted to highlight these issues because I think that when we're all voting for our leaders, especially at the state level, first we need to make sure that we vote for these folks, and then secondly, we need to hold them accountable for the decisions that they make. Because they make decisions that affect us much more usually than what the president does. Right now is a whole different thing, but normally what the president is doing has less effect than what our local legislators and what our governor is making decisions on, especially when it comes to our education, what we can and cannot do in the classrooms, and the supports that we have to do those things. So just to highlight those bills that were signed and wasn't signed.
Well, before I go, Ms. Kroll, I know you're not sitting up here, but was there anything you'd like to add as a student trustee?
Well, there was also, I wanted to bring it up later, but about there's turnover band tonight. So it was kind of like along the lines with the 8th grade parent night, that it's basically where we have the bands from the middle school, like the middle school band students, and they come to Terra Nova. They were actually at the football game with us, and so they play like Eye of the Tiger and the Star Spangled Banner and the fight song with us. So I think that was pretty great because it's a really good commitment or recruitment opportunity for us. And there were a lot of kids that they were like, oh my gosh, this is awesome, I want to do high school band now. So that was really cool. And they got to see our field show. So yeah, so that was really cool.
And good words, Ms. Alladine. agree with you on so many of those things. As for me, I was able to attend the Pacifica High School Fair. So that was good to see all of our schools well represented with a really good turnout from both, staff and students in particular. It was nice to see large crowds of people crowding around each of our school booths. So that was really good, despite the fact that there were some private schools that were in that same room, but our school certainly drew a lot of attention. So that was really good. Always fun to see the robotics team from Jeff out there. So I mean, all the way around, every school, every one of our schools did a fantastic job representing. So kudos to our district for being out there. And also got to go to the Employee Housing Town Hall last week at Oceana, which was actually very good. It was a smaller group than I'd anticipated, but it was a very good group of staff that had some good questions, and so I think it's hard to believe that this thing that was really a dream for so many of us a few years ago, suddenly we're at this stage where we're talking to staff about what the next steps are, and the fact that we're within months of breaking ground and all of that. It's pretty exciting to see this dream really coming true right before us every single day, with all the hard work that staff have done on this. So thank you so much. Dr. Gloria?
Thank you. So I don't want to be duplicative, but I do want to go back to the Terra Nova open house, because during instructional council last week, well, actually when I met with the principals before instructional council, we spent the whole hour primarily talking about how do you sell your school. When you're marketing a product, what do you do, and what are the things the kids want to hear about, what don't the kids care about, what do the parents want to hear about, what don't the parents want to hear about. And one of the things we talked about is how much more interesting it is for prospective students to hear from other students. And so Mr. Murphy, when you got up, and I can't remember the other two students, but they all did a great job. But I think your testimony and that of your two peers probably meant more than anything up on the PowerPoint. So I know it's hard to get up and talk, but it was great. So I'd like to see more of that moving forward. So well done on that. Yeah, I've been following the legislation in Sacramento too, and it's frustrating. I know we're going to talk about this soon, but it's on one hand, we didn't have control over the start time, but on the other hand, control's being left to us on the medical marijuana. So there's like no consistency there. It's a little frustrating. I asked this year, we have an association of superintendents in San Mateo. There's 23 of us, and we meet monthly. And we have different assignments. And I was on our insurance board for my first 2 years, but I really wanted to move over to our special education board. So I'm sitting on that board primarily because of some of the things Ms. Saladin is talking about. It doesn't make sense to have all these program improvement plans. We have beautiful plans if we can't get staff to fill positions. So I'm hoping that I can, working through SELPA, whether we can get some kind of help in that area. Let's see, I can't read that one. Oh, no, I can read this one. So we got the field trip back from 5 trustees, Ms. Bell, is that right? Mm-hmm. So you're looking at a chaperone. There's 5 trustees. We'll be flying down to San Diego together and attending the conference, eating together. I'll be the one checking up. I might be asking for your help, Mr. Lee, with Mr. Murphy, if he needs any help. But I'm real excited that we have 5 students coming in. It's great. I haven't chaperoned in a long time, so this is going to be fun. Last time I chaperoned, I went to Chicago with a huge band. I went to more blended learning classrooms this past week, and with every week that goes by, the teachers become more and more experienced. And one of the things about blended learning is the classroom is divided up in 4 centers, and there's rotation. So there's one group works on future-ready skills, so they're learning content, but woven into those activities are things that you would need to be future-ready in terms of either college readiness or career. There's another station that you learn content through some digital format. There's an independent learning station, and then there's one that I don't want us to overlook, and it's the mini lesson. And so this is the part of the class where the teacher, with working with probably 8 students, gets to either differentiate instruction or do some reteaching based on data if you know students need help with factoring. This is a place where you can get that reteaching. And I saw really good examples at Westmore High School last week as I went through, and gave me hope for Tier 1 instruction. So that was great to see that. And then tomorrow is our high school fair, our first high school fair here at Saramonte. We have courtesy attendants out in the parking lot donning new JUHSD long sleeve shirts to stay warm. And we're hoping we have good turnout. Ms. Hawkins has done a really good job of promoting it on social media, but so is Jeff Council. They've been pushing it out too, so it's nice to have our partners help with us that. So hopefully we'll see some of you tomorrow night. Thank you.
And Ms. Casey for the AFT 1481 report?
I don't really have anything new.
Nothing new tonight. Okay, very well. Fantastic. Then we have Oceana ASB is in the house, so come on up.
Okay, hi. So we are from Oceana. We're going to be giving our ASB student report back. I'm Chanel Lejano, the ASB president.
I'm Vincent Delgado, the junior social media rep.
I'm Leon Zhao, the ASB treasurer.
I'm Rihanna Campo, the junior vice president.
I'm Danielle Rosenblum. I'm the junior assistant student activities director.
So I would like to begin off with our Oceana High School report with Club Fair, which was on September 13th. It was a great introduction to many new clubs such as Black Student Union, a way for students to come up with ideas of inclusivity with even race, and also Gay Straight Alliance Club. And there's Indoor Soccer Club, where students can celebrate their own athletic abilities and even play together, as well as Dungeons and Dragons Club, which celebrates the interests of other students. It was a great way to introduce students to inclusive environments, as well as making new friends and building on your own leadership skills through club signups. And we also had FOP, which was Freshman Orientation Project, and it was on September 19th. It allowed a lot of incoming freshman students to understand the unique format of Oceana, and it was an introduction to build everlasting bonds in the 910 house that we have at Oceana. And finally, we also have the first student versus staff volleyball game. We had it on October 11th, and it was a new event for staff and students to bond. The turnout was 36 students and 8 staff, and students finally get to know their new staff, and at least from this year and last year, we have many new staff members, and as well the staff one.
Moving on to the ASB activities. As you can see on the slide, here's a list of the ASB activities that we've had over the span of 2 months. We've had a summer retreat, which we had one at the end of the school year, and we had a 3-day retreat during the summer break. It was a way to have new ASB members get out of their comfort zone and connect with new ASB members as well. And one thing to point out is that 26 new members of the 46 members currently in ASB. That's important to point out because that's 26 more perspectives in the student body. And as the list goes on, we have the new student orientation, the elections, senior sunrise, picture day, club fair. We have the food drive, which is an ongoing fundraiser. It's our 3rd year doing this event. We currently collected 236 cans from our students at the school. And it also helps us connect to our school-wide outcomes towards being active community members, and that all proceeds will be going towards the Pacifica Food Bank. As the list goes on, again, we have Castle, Back to School Night, Rally, Ongoing PA, and Town Halls, which is a new idea that was proposed by our AC reps. It's a way to connect AC with students outside of ASB, updating them about school decisions that are being made.
So in addition to the events that Vincent said, back in September, we also volunteered at FogFest for the 4th year in a row. Some of you may have seen us there, but for both days, we opened up our field for parking. We had students walk up and down the fest, helping monitor recycling bins, and we even had teachers selling food at one of the booths. From FogFest, typically we make $2,000 for the 9th and 10th grades. We make $2,000 for prom, and $2,000 to split between the teachers for their interims and clubs, and $2,000 to our general student body. And we use this money to fund events. For example, last year we bought 2 new water bottle filling stations that hopefully we'll get by this year. However, in addition to just handling all this money, the people who planned FogFest for our school, they learned to communicate with the community, the student body to ask for volunteers, and even had to ask teachers to volunteer. Just this past weekend, we had our first Stussy sale of the year. Stussy is a clothing brand that goes to various schools and sells their clothes for a discounted price. We had a huge turnout in shoppers and volunteers. It was a good way for students to get some volunteer hours in and some nice clothes added. Usually we'll get around $500 for each Stussy sale.
Here are some images showcasing our rally, the Castle Conference, and dance. For a rally, it was our first rally of the year. It was very fun. Our theme was World Rally to spread awareness on current and ongoing environmental problems. And our Spirit Week also ended up lining up with the Youth Climate Strike, which was very convenient. And as you can see in the images, there was a lot of spirit and fun and excitement. The whole rally went very smoothly, and it was a very good event. We also had the Castle Conference, which was held at Westmore High School. It was a really great experience. Personally, it was my first year attending one of these conferences, and I thought it was just a really good opportunity to have fun, meet some new people, and get out of your comfort zone. And at this conference, they emphasized how technology is really diminishing empathy, and it really opened our eyes as to how to become better student leaders by connecting with one another on a deeper level as well as the student body. So it was a really great experience overall. And lastly, our first casual dance of the year, the theme was back to school dance. We ended up selling the most tickets we've ever sold at a dance, and we made $1,000 in profit. The turnout was great, and the student body had a lot of fun. And even though it wasn't a perfect dance, it definitely helped us exercise our problem-solving skills, and it helped us improve our rules and regulations for casual dances in the future. As for athletics, right now we're still in our fall athletics. For girls tennis, it had a really good turnout. There was a lot of girls who wanted to participate and join the tennis team. And the cross-country team had a meet today, as well as tennis had a match today. Our winter sports are coming up, and we have a new boys soccer team who are newly competing. We also provide basketball, girls soccer, and wrestling. And it's very important for a high school that's as small as ours to have a variety of sports so students can, they're interested in a sport.
And then just something to add that didn't make it onto the slides. As Rianne mentioned earlier, we do have a lot of new staff from this year and last year. Almost half of our certificated staff is new, including our admin and the majority of our counselors. So Oceana is currently still in a transitioning period, trying to make new staff feel more welcomed. And we're trying to think of ways to promote inclusivity and a community between our staff and students, such as the staff versus student volleyball game. And we'd like to see more ways we can retain our teachers and staff in our schools and whatever else our district has, like the teacher housing. And that concludes our presentation. Do you have any questions for us?
Open it up to the floor, you guys. Anything you want to add, comment, question, ask?
I have a small question. By AC reps, what does that mean or entail? AC.
So AC is the highest governing body in our school. It stands for Academic Council. It consists of 2 student reps, 5 teachers, 1 parent, and 2 parents? 1 parent and the principal, and they meet every... and the classified staff. They meet every Thursday to discuss different policies of our school, such as the dance rules and protocol and rally protocol, and they overall just create the, what is it? School policies.
I just want to say thank you for your great presentation. You normally give us handouts, and this is the first time I've seen the slides. This is really great. I have a silly question. During the rally, were you guys doing Hungry Hungry Hippos? Oh my God, that is so funny. That is so cool. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so I just thought that's really awesome. So, and you do a lot. You've done a lot already, ASB. And the school town halls, that is really, I really like that. That's because normally you'll announce things on the PA and no one's listening, or they're not paying attention, or they're passing periods, but you're actually holding town halls. Now, how does the town hall look when you do that? Is it like an assembly schedule? Is there, when do you normally do it?
We haven't done any yet. We just implemented the idea for our AC reps to do, so it's really going to be up to them to figure out the structure of the town halls. We'll tell you in the spring.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to ask my question, when and where are the town halls? It's a really good idea. I mean, there's more details to be forthcoming, but would you envision anything in the cafeteria or the courtyard or in the gym?
We're not sure yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I do want to say that's 26 new voices, when you add to ASB and kind of involvement. That's really good. Even just to address, transitioning when you have a lot of turnover. As a teacher, I've seen that at schools I've worked at, and year in, year out, you see people come and go. One thing that I know I've learned from my students, and that I've also encouraged them to think about is, those transitions are major turning points, right? They can be. In morale and school spirit, right? But from your experience that school spirit is fully within the hands, and the greatest voices to help uplift that are the students. So proud of what you're doing, and I can see that year in, year out, what's going on there. Bring that to the new faculty, the new staff, and new admin, new counselors. I'm sure they're going to get some of it from their coworkers, right? But nothing speaks better than the students' voices. So just to reinforce that, especially as upperclassmen and women, the ones that represent that, you can bring that to the younger students who don't know that yet and may feel like they had an idea of what Oceana is coming in, but are learning all those new things from young. And new sports, that's really big, I know. I want to laud you on that, because for a smaller school, it was always hard to know a long time ago getting new sports, and so that must be really encouraging. Are there a lot of people joining the new soccer team, or? Yeah, that's good. Keep up the good work. Right on.
Thank you for the presentation. It was fantastic. And I just want to acknowledge the great diversity representation here for the ASB board. I really appreciate that you're representing the vast array of all the students that are at the school. I personally parked at the Oceana parking lot at the Fog Fest, and you guys did a wonderful job. And I did make my donation because somebody, I had my $20 bill out, and I was about to get change, and they said, would you like to make a donation? So I just said, keep the change. So you guys did a great job selling and marketing yourselves, and I'm glad you guys got a lot of money for that, and I'm sure you're going to put that to good use. I want to also acknowledge the fact that you are not only thinking of yourselves as students, but also thinking of the staff at the school, since there's so many new staff there, that you're including, trying to work on creating a better community for everyone, not just the students. So I definitely applaud you for that, and keep up the great work. And I look forward to the spring presentation and see all the other great things that you guys are going to be working on. So thank you.
So thanks for coming out. Great presentation. I know it could be hard to speak in front of a bunch of people, but you guys did fantastic. I always like to learn what's going on in the schools, and I feel like this is a really great touch point to keep us focused on what we're all here for. So thank you for coming in. I also would like to thank your fantastic ASB director. An extra long day for you. So thank you so much for coming in. And then also just to touch on, as a parent and also as a school board member, I always try to do my best, but what's one of the lessons I've learned as an adult is sometimes your best isn't good enough. And I just want to apologize to you for the turmoil and the turnover that's happened at Oceana. I know that has affected you guys a lot. And just to say that is always on the forefront of my mind in all the actions that I take. But that still doesn't make a difference for what you're going through right now. So just know that I acknowledge that, and I'm sorry. So.
Really wonderful presentation. Always fun to, and this is the best part of all of our meetings, is when students present, because it does remind us exactly why we're here. And it's always great to see how each of you, every year when different groups, when you see the turnover in the ASB and different groups of students represent your school come, and you can sort of see, while a lot of the activities are the same, it's what you personally bring to the presentation, what you've done and what you've gained from it is what's really inspiring to hear. Like what you shared, Danielle, about what you learned at the conference. That's really, powerful to hear. And very thoughtful. So thank you for that. And of course, all the outreach that each of you have done. My one question is, who did win the volleyball game? Okay. I was wondering when the smack talk was going to begin. I also do appreciate the Fog Fest parking because that's where I always park, and it's always fun to have students directing me where to go. You're waving and all that, so that's very, very professionally done. And I know you probably lost a couple of dollars when my son graduated from high school last year. He never missed the SEA sale, and even though he attended another school in the district, and he went to every single one for 2 years once he started driving. So I know that he would have, even though he's away at college now, I know he would have been bummed to have missed this one this year. But really appreciate the fact you guys do that and are doing, thinking outside the box for a different fundraiser. So job well done. Is there anything you wanted to add, Dr. Gloria?
Yeah, so the freshman orientation projects, that was part of back to school night, and I really enjoyed sitting in and listening to that. And that was a great way to practice a mini senior acts while getting to know everything in the school. So well done to the freshmen and the teachers who did all that. And I appreciated the special treatment that I got in the parking lot because I was in and out of that lot a lot both those 2 days. And I always had a great spot right up front. Maybe it's the JUHSD license plate. I don't know.
Got there at 5 in the morning? No.
Yeah, there's that too. But I only had to pay once each day, so that was, a lot of parking lots you go in, you pay every time you go in and out. So I appreciated that. And yeah, it's a real hardship in this district that 20% of our staff turns over every year. It's not just at Oceana, it's at all of our schools. And it's hard to get things going when every year we're replacing 20% of the staff. And that's not just certificated, it's classified staff too. So we're working on it. It's just, we need some help above us. The legislature's gonna have to help us with some of this. Anyway, great presentation.
Thank you once again. All right, moving on to consent. Is there a motion to approve consent?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. Moving on down to item 14, do we have any public comment this evening, Ms. Tejada? No. Okay. All right, very good. Then we will move on to discussion. Item 15A1, we have a presentation on vaping, what you need to know. Mary Beer and Doreen Basuino.
Good evening.
Thank you for being here.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for having us here tonight. My name is Mary Beer. I'm the director for the Pacifica Prevention Partnership. And Doreen and I are here to talk to you about vaping. Very serious subject, and we have a lot to share. I do want to take a brief second and just thank all you guys for your service. I know how hard and how much time it takes to serve on a board, and it was so nice to see you be installed. It was an honor to be able to see that, so thank you. So tonight we're going to talk about current trends in vaping.
Happens to all of us.
Make some noise before that happens. We're going to look at some data, talk about what the products look like, the health effects, and then what we can do. So we're going to start with some state data. This is an older set of data, but it's looking at the increase of calls to the California poison control, which shows, obviously that there's a lot of increase in youth-related incidents. And so we've all seen in the news and we've heard all the studies that are going on and the increased visits to the ERs and the lung infections and some actual deaths. So it's a really serious topic. And the tobacco industry was really smart. And so they marketed these products to folks as a healthier option. And so people were swapping out their traditional cigarettes, picking up the vape devices, thinking that they were actually quitting smoking. So it was really smart of the tobacco industry. But it wasn't only adults that this is affecting. So some of this data up here shows that 7th graders, 9th graders, and 11th graders are also reporting use statewide. This survey is, this data is county data. It's the California Student Tobacco Survey for Region 20, which is San Francisco and San Mateo counties together. So it covers a lot of ground, but it does show a much higher rate of prevalence. So between the years 17 and 2018, the high school students were reporting 20.8% of use rates, which is much higher than the reported state prevalence, which is 10.9. We have some local data. So this data comes from the Youth Access Survey that was implemented last school year. Approximately 2,000 students took this survey through the Be the Change Youth Coalition from the Pacifica Prevention Partnership. And this survey reports 11.6% of students are reporting using in the last 30 days. Now in 2015, when we did the same survey, it was 3% of students reported use in the last 30 days.
And this data here is what we've gleaned from Data Zone through just the JUHSD data. So when we report stuff, we report it through our student information system, which is Synergy. And but it doesn't. So this is just tobacco. So it's 48900H. So it's tobacco. So tobacco possession or use. And we have 15 incidences reported, and of those 15, there was one that turned into a suspension. So maybe of those 15, that one person probably did it 2 or 3 times.
So the 15 incidents, are those unique?
Unique in what way?
That it's a different kids or
no,
okay.
No, just a total.
Okay.
And then 2018-19, it's 20 incidences with reported of 5 suspensions, and 2 out of those were in-house, or 2 were out of school suspension, and 3 were in-house. So there's probably, of those 20, there's probably 1 person that did it multiple times, or a couple people that did it multiple times. And in 2019-20, which is just now, we have 8 incidences reported already with 0 suspensions, and we're in October. So of this data, what Synergy doesn't allow us to do, and it's not in, you know, the ed code or anything, we don't determine devices, right? There's nothing in there that says it was a vaping incident. But I could almost guarantee that the last 2 years have probably been all vaping. You just don't see kids with cigarettes anymore. It's just not, you just don't see it. Because it's so easy for them to get these products, which is the scary part. And then also what we did is I just looked at controlled substances too, and the same incidences, you can count them, but what are the control? Is it through the vaping devices? And I think in the last couple years, it's mostly through the vaping devices. And so we're gonna kind of educate, and I had Mary, what was it, 2 years ago, did you do the board, you did the parent presentations too, which was great. We had a really good turnout at the Terra Nova PTO. But what our staff is doing right now, our VPs, is we have a shared Google Doc, alternative to suspension Google Doc, so they can kind of create ideas on what to do, because really we don't want to suspend these kids. These kids are addicted to this product. They've done a great job marketing, and Mary will go over the statistics of how addictive these products are, and that these kids can't quit even if they wanted to. So it's really not an issue of disciplining, but trying to educate and help these students. So we have shared Google Docs, so they have posters that they do, they have other things, and Mary and I and Melissa Ambrose are working on something for next semester that we're gonna work on to try to help our VPs do something that's consistent throughout the district. Because right now people are just making it up as they go. And it's not consistent data. And neither is this, right? I'm pretty sure they're not marking it down every time a kid has a vape pen. Because it's just so prevalent that they're probably just grabbing it and calling a parent and, you know, whatever. So there's just, it's just not, there's no way of doing it. And then, so they're always doing parent notification. If they take it from a child, if there's always parent notification. It might not get in there, but it's always that. And then the other things that they've been doing, if there is an in-house, it's really in school, and they usually have them do some sort of research, and then of course get them the work from the classroom. But they're still being suspended from class, which is not the best thing, but at least they're not off site for 6 hours, continuing that behavior. So our concern is the prevalence of it, and it's increasing.
Yeah, absolutely, and the addictive factors, right? So at FogFest, some of our college-age students did a survey, came up with some questions that I thought were really important, and they talked to 25 students on Sunday at the FogFest, and they asked, you know, is vaping interrupting your focus during activities, during meals, things like that? Do you feel anxious or irritable? And I thought that was one of the most important points that was made, was every young person that they talked to felt anxious when they could not use their vape. So that's a really big deal. They also asked questions like, have you lost control of your vaping? Have you ever tried to quit? Are you still vaping after you get in trouble? And you can see by the data that the yeses outweigh the nos by far. And so these 6 questions were added to our youth access survey that's going to be distributed tomorrow to all the 9th graders in the district. So our youth council will come back and present the data to you. The data also includes prescription drugs and cannabis and alcohol.
I think what's really important is that last question. Do you still vape after getting in trouble with your parents or school for vaping? And the answer is pretty much yes, which is scary.
It is. And so we'll just go over some of the basics with what is vaping and products and things. And so e-cigarettes and vapes are designed to deliver nicotine. They are nicotine delivering devices. You can also use cannabis extracts and oils inside these devices. these are the different sorts of devices that are out there. There's the cigarette, the ones that look like cigarettes, the ones that are more hookah-like. There's vape pens and mods, which are bigger, more expensive, and then you have your pod base, which is what most of our young people are using. So these devices create big billows of not smoke, but cloud, right? And so this is very attractive to our young people. They want to blow cloud. They want to blow a whole bunch. And so they are taking really big drags in order to blow a cloud. And it's, anyway, so that's one of the attractions.
And the pod-based are the ones that are being used the most, and if you don't know what to look for, you would never spot them. They look like thumb drives, they're just...
Yeah, so this is the JUHL product. It's the one that most of our young people are using. It's sleek, it's small, you can hide it, looks like a USB. All the little pods, they're really tiny, and they're also, you can't recycle them, so they're really bad for our environment. They're just getting put into the landfills. The sales, oh wait, I'm gonna go back. The sales of JUHL surged. It's overtaking the market. There's flavored pods, which is also very attractive to our young people because they can take a hit and get a rush that tastes good. And they don't end up smelling like, nasty cigarettes. So they're really smart in how they're marketing, and they're targeting our young people. So we can talk about, oh, my little graphics didn't work.
Uh-oh.
Oh, I'm so upset. Because when I clicked, then all the cigarettes were going to come down. Anyway.
A for effort, A for
Now just
effort.
a little bit, So in one pack of cigarettes, there's 20 cigarettes. And each cigarette, you absorb 1 milligram of nicotine with a cigarette. And so in one pack of cigarettes, you have 20 milligrams of nicotine that are absorbed into your body. When one JUHL pod is 41 milligrams of nicotine, which equals 41 cigarettes. And there's been a lot of questions about, well, how many puffs are in a pod? And it's really hard to determine what a puff is because these kids are trying to blow these big clouds. And so they are taking really big drags. So that they say there's anywhere between 100 and 200 puffs in a pod. All the other devices also, carry a lot of nicotine with them too. So nicotine in the brain, let's talk a little bit about what it does. It goes into, oh yeah, this is really not fun without my graphics. Yeah. Okay, so it would show it's going into the brain and it's going to connect to all of the receptor cells and it's going to stimulate the pleasure portions of the brain, which then stimulate a dopamine release. And it feels good. There's this rush of pleasure. While that might not seem very dangerous, it actually is because what nicotine does is it stops the body's natural ability to communicate and to feel pleasure. And so the body's going to take the easy way out, and it's not going to create the dopamine because the nicotine is stimulating that part of the brain. And so what ends up happening is that people become addicted to that because you have to have that feeling of pleasure, and without it, there's a lot of withdrawal. And so we're very concerned about the addiction cycle. And this is what it looks like. The nicotine comes into your body, it goes into your brain. Again, it goes to all the receptor cells. It releases a rush of dopamine. It feels really good. The nicotine then drops really quickly. So the nicotine level leaves the body rather quickly. Not fully leaves the body, but it drops. And so that's when the addiction cycle clicks in, because then all of a sudden, the body needs the nicotine in order to feel good. And so this is vicious cycle of addiction. With our students, we're very concerned about withdrawal because if our students are having to leave the classroom, say in the middle of class, to go into the restroom or whatever they're doing, just to use, it's probably because they are either withdrawing, or experiencing withdrawal or addicted already, right? And so these are all the different things that can happen with withdrawal. Irritable, restless, can't concentrate, all of these things happen. And the withdrawal cycle is about 1 to 3 days after use. So say we have students who are using in excess over the weekend, either with THC or nicotine, and then they have to stop because they're coming to school. On a Wednesday, that's when all of those withdrawal symptoms are going to show up, and they're not. They're going to be irritable and talking back and not being able to concentrate, and not being able to learn. It's going to directly affect our education. Over a period of about a month, nicotine can leave your body if you're not adding to it. But that doesn't mean that the psychological effects leave the body. So again, it creates the biological addiction followed with the psychological obsession. And what we really want to do as a team is try to figure out how we can, in the very best way, bring as much information to our students as we can, bring as many resources as we can to do some early intervention and then possible treatment. I know Dr. Deloria has high hopes for us that we can do some wraparound services, and I do too. So we're starting with all of these presentations. We're going to be presenting to every student in Jefferson Union High School District. So far we have a week scheduled at Terra Nova and 2 weeks scheduled at Terra Nova, and I'll be going around and talking to all the other administration. We're also going to be going to Thornton, to Summit, to the elementary and the middle schools in both cities. So we're going to be out there a lot. Sonia Lancaster's back here. She's going to be doing some parent presentations and parent nights in Pacifica. We're hoping to be able to do the same thing in Daly City. And so that's just scratching the surface of what we can do. And I do want to have you guys understand that our work plans and our contracts do not include tobacco. So what we're supposed to be working on all the time is alcohol, prescription drugs, and cannabis. So we're throwing in some cannabis slides, and we're calling it cannabis education. And that way we can work it into our grant funding and make it work somehow. And that's kind of what we're trying to do.
It's kind of all.
We're just trying to all do whatever we can. So.
And Mary and her group have really been working for the policy advocacies
Oh
as
yeah, I
well.
forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, there's cities, South San Francisco just did a flavor ban, so I wear a couple hats in case you guys don't know. I'm also a city council member in Pacifica, so we will be looking at this ban in Pacifica for sure, and then hopefully we can do it in Daly City too. It would be great to have some advocacy to get that done.
Question from student trustee Cole.
So I just had a question. So you're getting funded to talk about cannabis and alcohol, but then not about nicotine products.
It's a grant. She's on a grant, so, yeah.
Yeah, and so in the past, we've had grants that focused only on tobacco. It was a 2B grant, tobacco use prevention education. So the funding that we got alongside of that didn't have to cover tobacco because someone else was already doing it in our district. And then the 2B funding ran out. And so now we are over here with our other grants that only focus on these other substances.
Okay.
So we're going to be working on that too.
Okay.
Great question. Thank you.
Other questions, comments from anybody up around the table?
Suggestions?
Yeah, I mean, besides just going to, I mean, literally Mary and her team are gonna try to hit every single classroom, because when we were initially talking about it, we thought, we can't just do a grade level, right? This isn't a 9th grade issue, this is us trying to educate every kid right now, including
What does
their
your
parents.
presentation look like to students? Because I think this is boring for a student.
Oh, yeah, well, this is just a little,
This is for
this is
us.
micro.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh no, it's very interactive. We use the Stanford Tobacco Toolkit, please look it up. You can go through it and you can see all the interactive activities that are connected to the presentations. We've tried them out with our young people at Oceana, so we have a youth council who they've gone through the presentations. They said like, this Kahoot question is so dumb, we like this better. So they've been able to tell us what they think works better, so we can condense into like 45 minutes.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why we don't wanna do assemblies, right? You got, like, maybe 20 kids are gonna listen to us at an assembly. So, so that's when the team decided that it would best be done in a classroom environment where the kids can be interactive and they can ask questions and they can start to relate to Mary a little bit, and maybe, you know, Mary can leave some cards and they can do some outreach. But we figured if it was a big venue, then we would lose that interaction.
You're visiting classrooms.
Yes, individual
That's why you're
classrooms.
at a school for 2 weeks.
Exactly, yeah. And then we do have young people too who are willing to share their stories. We're not sure how that's gonna work out. We might need to seek out students at different campuses, but we do have a couple of young people that are willing to come with us.
I was at our, the PTSA meeting at Jefferson, and we asked what parent education type topics were you interested in, and the first thing all the parents said was vaping.
Yeah, please have us come.
So, November 6th, so I'll talk to you later.
That'd be great, yeah.
Yeah, it's a really, the presentation that Mary's done in the past at, for the Terranova PTO was really eye-opening for our parents and very educational, and I wish more parents would have come. So I think if that's gonna happen, if Mary's gonna come, I think we really need to push it out so that parents, the more parents we can get there, the better, because I think that's really where it's gonna happen. Because they really don't know that their kids are buying this stuff, or they don't know what to look for.
And we have partners too that are coming in to help, so it's not all falling on Mary, just to understand that. We have prevention partnerships across the county that also have to do presentations, so that they're gonna be working together with us. We also have the Tobacco Education Coalition from San Mateo County. So we're gonna be bringing in all these other people too.
Another thing I noticed that you guys were going to Terranova and Thornton, why not Westmore?
Oh, we're going to all the schools.
Oh, you went to all the
schools.
okay.
Yeah, I just haven't scheduled those yet.
Oh, okay.
So I'm meeting with administration.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
She's contacted all the administration already, so they're just working out schedules.
Okay,
Good question.
thank you.
Yeah.
No, there's no problem in Westmore.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Nicole, you had another question?
Oh, back here.
So I kind of a comment, kind of a question as well. I'm just remembering when I learned freshman year about all the bad side effects in health, that it felt kind of detached, I guess. Like it kind of felt like this thing where it was like, oh, there's all this terrible stuff that can happen to you, but it didn't exactly feel like real, like it can happen like to me or in the school, I guess. So I was just wondering, like in your presentations, if there's anything specifically you're doing to address that.
And yeah, I think that's going to be the young people that we'll bring with us to share their stories. Yeah, I think that's going to be a really important piece. We just have to figure out how we can schedule people to come with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also think it helps when there's somebody from outside schools having the presentation. So like, I think when Mary was, and her team was asking kids at the Fog Fest, I think they were very honest. I think there's more honesty because they were saying, yeah, we are anxious. This is how we are feeling when we're doing this device. So I think that helps when there's somebody else that's doing it, and the kids kind of connect a little bit better, so yeah.
And then also, so I personally don't know a lot about the health effects of it, and I think that, like at least a lot of the people that I've talked to that do indulge in those substances, are kind of ignorant about how bad the effects can be, and that they're like, at least the argument that I've heard the most is that, oh, well, it's not as bad as cigarettes, and, at least I'm not, doing all this stuff, and, it doesn't actually do all this bad stuff. But then I don't really know how to counteract their claims because I myself don't know exactly what it is, so I was just wondering if, like, in your presentation, if there's, like, specific, like, I was gonna do my own research to find like specific studies that, just to be like, hey, like, here's the evidence, because I'm a very science-based person.
Yeah,
so.
there's absolutely a whole section that we do on the health effects. We didn't bring it here tonight because we really wanted to concentrate on the addiction part of it, and that we really want to get our young people help. And so, but when we talk to the classrooms, there'll definitely be a whole section on that. And everything's really interactive, which is helpful, in small groups and things like that.
Yeah, because at least for me, that's like the biggest motivator to not, that there's just all these terrible side effects. And I think that would also be a really big motivator for people that are doing it to stop, to be like, hey, this is what you're doing to your body.
Yeah. There's just so many myths, right?
Yeah.
They think it's a vapor and it's aerosol.
Yeah.
And there's chemicals and particles that are being left behind, and we didn't talk about any of that here tonight, but we will.
Okay, that's really good.
Thank you.
Great presentation. Thank you for bringing this to the attention of the board and the public session. Obviously, I know we've been seeing a lot of these reports in the news about e-cigarettes and vaping use. The CDC has now given it a name, apparently today, e-Valley, e-cigarette and vaping product use associated lung injury. One of the things people are ignorant of largely is because of technology. It wasn't even disclosed the kind of chemicals. And so I'm glad that it's being included in presentations on cannabis because it has totally everything to do with I think the trends that we've seen. I was going to ask, what kind of overlap are you seeing, or have we done those surveys with students in their understanding and their usage of cannabis products? Is that once it was legalized, we knew that it would be a much bigger problem, an issue in our communities to deal with youth who are underage. Yeah, what kind of data are you seeing on that?
I don't have any data on that.
Yeah, okay.
That doesn't mean we can't collect some.
No, it's happening.
I have stories, right? So young people are talking about, you know, using the THC products, even sometimes with the nicotine products, and that's like a double vaping. Yeah. But we don't have direct data points, but I think we can look into that.
Yeah, I'm just pulling some of these things up with, I mean, some of the Juul type devices are being used for cannabis and it's damaging the lungs in ways some people are dying from, right? So I think that as a touch point in terms of talking to people is very important. When the CDC, Centers for Disease Control, is targeting it, labeling it, it's much bigger. Also, I'm imagining the Youth Health Center is part of the partnership. And
oh yeah.
so this is, have there been other presentations that have been done like last year or before that, or is it just brand new kind of?
So we presented to the staff at the Daly City Youth Health Center, and that was very helpful. Yeah.
I guess my last question is, any work or collaboration or just even, I guess, communication with what's going on around Prop C in San Francisco? The No on Prop C campaign is to counter Juul, and Juul has withdrawn its support for it, but the ballot is still on the ballot. So is there any communication there in terms of resources or even just?
I don't, but that's great. I can look that up.
There might be, yeah. For,
Be good for me now.
yeah. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. For me, it's just more of us getting better data. So if we could get better data collection, that would be great. I mean, it just looks to me like, you know, when we look and see that there was a dramatic drop in reporting, but I just think it's just harder to catch people who are vaping, so.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely, there's a couple things, right? It's like you're on the freeway and everyone's doing 80, right? And you're gonna pull over the guy that's doing 95 because everyone's breaking a law, so what are you doing? So there's that, and then the fact that it is very, very easy for these kids to hide this. You know, we always get the ones that are just like, because they're trying to, you know, do the whole big puff things. You're like, okay, got you. So, and I think we'll have, you know, we have some cameras on campus now and things like that, but it's just so easy to, you know, do it anywhere. That it's, I think that our country and our state did a really good job with the cigarettes, and we're really educating students, and I'm bummed that this came out of nowhere. It seems like, you mentioned the CDC, but they really took their time getting involved as far as I'm concerned. It's like we just went back 20 years, 30 years.
Yeah,
I mean, this is ridiculous.
Created a whole nother generation of addicts.
Yeah.
Cool.
So.
Oh, sorry, I just had another question. If there's any, like, concrete steps that are being taken to help the students to come off of the products? Because I know that, like,
Talk about that.
there are probably a lot of students that they would want help for it, but that, you know, they don't want to get in trouble for it. So I feel like, at least right now, the system is like, oh, you get in trouble for having the vape, but I was just wondering, like, if there was like a plan for that, like how to address, like, say a student gets caught with a vape, what do you do?
Right, and so like that's what we were showing, that data that we showed before, where a kid was, even if they got in trouble, do you still want to continue? Do you still feel like you're going to continue to do it, right? So getting in trouble is not helping. So the point is, how can we help the students? So that's a great question. So it's actually today, Mary and I and a couple other people were actually meeting about some sort of tiered support for students. And so that's something that we're going to try to come up with in the spring semester. Because that would be something, again, that Mary would probably put together for an after-school type of thing to help kids. And then prepping the teachers, like if you knew a friend was coming off of that, you'd want to like say to the teachers, hey, this person's going to be irritable for a while. Like you have to be really open and honest about it because I would be like, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And we're also going to be going and seeing other programs across the county that are happening, and so we're going to be shadowing some programs to see how they're doing it and bring some more information and really working together to try to put together a program, along with the Daly City Youth Health Center, too.
So the other thing is on the actions, are we reaching out to Bayshore and Bridgeway?
I'm not.
You should. You did too.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you for the presentation. I just want to say really quick, and I have actually personal experience with dealing within our own family and vaping issues and getting the phone calls that, saying you need to have a talk about vaping, So it's nice to know that you, as a community, are bringing it together and bringing attention and try to find a solution for everyone, because I think it's hard because it's something it's so new that we've never had to deal with, that, we want to help the students, but what is it that's going to be the best way and the most effective way? So thank you for that. I just wanted to say.
Yep, I'm grateful for the presentation tonight because there's a lot that I actually wasn't aware of, so this was very helpful. And also, I think, it's good that we have done this tonight, and the fact that, you've been at one of the schools for 2 weeks in residence and moving on. Because I think, the questions that the parents will ultimately have, obviously, we can say that, these are the action steps moving forward right now to address this. And the fact that I think it's easy for the student who is caught up in it to feel a lot of shame, right? And so how can we do this in such a way that actually really builds up the student and removes the shame of addiction, right? It doesn't matter whether it's vaping or something else. So really grateful for this and that we are moving in the right direction. It's a good story to tell that we are doing these sorts of things. Anyone else? Any other comments or questions? Dr. Lori?
I'll go last. I think as a parent, this is scary because none of my kids smoked, but when my younger brother was living with me, I always knew when he smoked because you could smell it, right? And I think it's a scary time for parents because you don't know what the stuff looks like. No one warned us about this, right? Suddenly you're hearing about all these cases, so you can't really smell it. And you don't know what the stuff looks like. So it's a scary time for parents. We really need to get education way down into pre-K so that the parents all know that. And there are a lot of districts rushing to get the vape detectors in the bathrooms, and that will be really effective at catching more students. But I hesitate to do that until our team has the tiered supports in place. So that's one of my superintendent goals this year. So you have Mary and Doreen working with Melissa and the county and the Daly City Youth Health Center to pool all their resources, and if we have to write some more grants, then we need to do that. But to get those tiered supports in place, because I think for some students, if they know they have some place to go to get the help, they'll reach out rather than being caught. You don't realize how bad addiction is until you're addicted. And these are children. And what's scary about this is the fact that many of the products they're buying are in the back alley. They're not getting things that are regulated, and they're lacing in their own products. And the whole thing with THC is scary. To combine the nicotine with THC is a very scary thing. So I'm hopeful that sometime this year, later this year, we're going to have another presentation on some things we're going to start. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, they all do. Student trustees, you don't have to stay for the whole thing if you've got the SAT tomorrow or PSAT.
Go home.
If you choose to get up and go, it's totally okay.
We won't take it personally.
It's 8:23.
They're not worried about the SAT. They got it. They got it. That's right.
You're waiting for the board policies, aren't you? I can tell.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, so moving on to the dashboard local indicators, Ms. Baca.
Good evening, President Lee. Good evening, members of the board. Tonight, I will be presenting on the local indicator information that will be posted on the California School Dashboard within the next several weeks. So again, the purpose of tonight's meeting is to inform you the results of our local dashboard indicators. And I'll be covering a brief overview of the dashboard, a brief overview of the state and local indicators, but I'm going to be spending most of my time talking about the local indicators report and the next step as well. So just as a reminder, the California School Dashboard is a new website that contains information on how schools and districts are performing in different areas of student outcomes. So unlike the accountability system during the No Child Left Behind, where the sole measure was all about test scores, now it has different indicators. So it includes the suspension rate, English learner progress, graduation rate, college and career, and the Smarter Balance assessment scores for English, language arts, and mathematics. And those are the state indicators. And this data is collected at the state level. There are also the local indicators, which are basic conditions at the school, implementation of state academic standards, parent engagement, local climate survey, and access to a broad course of study. What's different about the local indicators is that the district collects the data and we report this information to the state. So again, these are the 5 local indicators, and the requirements for these indicators is that we have to annually measure its progress. We have to report the results at a regularly scheduled public meeting of the local governing board, and we have to report the results to the public using the dashboard website. So if we do all 3 things, then we would have met these metrics. So I'm going to go over each one of the local indicators. So the first one is the basic conditions, and it measures the progress in meeting the Williams settlement requirements. So that includes missed assignments, instructional materials, instructionally aligned materials, and facilities. And the tools that we use is the Student Accountability Report Card, or the SARC, and our Human Resources database. So for missed assignments, so missed assignments of teachers, of English learners, and total teacher missed assignments, I just want to go over on the definition of missed assignments really quickly. It means that the placement of a certificated employee in a teaching or service position for which the employee does not hold a legally recognized certificate or credential. For last year, this is 18-19, we had 0 missed assignments for teachers of English learners and total teacher missed assignments. And last year also, we did not have vacant teacher positions. For basic services, this is a % of students without access to their own copies of standards aligned instructional materials for use at school and at home. And 100% of our students had access to their own copies that they can use at school and at home. And finally, for the facilities, it's the number of identified instances where facilities do not meet good repair standard. And under the leadership of Marcus Peppers, he visited all of the school sites using the facilities inspections tool, and all of the school sites were actually under exemplary. So that is the end of first priority, and before I continue, I just want to know if there are any clarifying questions. So the second one is the implementation of state standards. So this measures the progress of implementing the state standards in the areas of English, ELD, math, social science, and there are 3 specific questions that they ask. They ask about the professional learning of our teachers, whether our instructional materials are aligned to the state standards, and the instructional support that we provide for our teachers. And also the survey, which is created by the California Department of Education, also asks the overall implementation of other curricular areas such as CTE, career technical education, physical education, visual and performing arts, health, and world language. So the first question asks us to rate our district's ability in providing professional learning. So as you can see, most of our teachers who took the survey, and I just want to let you know that actually this year we only had 34 teachers who participated on the survey. So later on I'll talk about next steps on how to improve this. But for this question, as you can see, there are 5 scales ranging from exploration and research all the way to implementation and sustainability. For English, most of our teachers said that we are either under full implementation or initial. And I just want to really thank Ms. Lori Robinson for her leadership and work on this, because we have been implementing the ELA standard since 2014, and this is just improving year after year.
But it's not most of our teachers, right? It's most of the teachers that took the survey.
It's most of the teachers that took this survey. And even though I know that it is a very low number of teachers, I'm very confident that for at least for this part of it, it truly reflects what our teachers, where teachers are in terms of providing professional learning, because we have provided a lot of professional development for our teachers. We are meeting constantly with all of the departments now, and so we have a lot more bandwidth and capacity for to meet with our teachers. So that's English, and for math, we have made some improvements. As you know, we've completed our scope and sequence work, and our teachers have actually just administered their first district benchmark assessment this week, and the teachers will be looking at their results at the end of October. So I want to, thank Ms. Ashford and Ms. Ehrenholt for helping us move forward in this, direction. For science, it's a 75% full implementation. Again, there's only 4 teachers, but most of the teachers are actually in biology teachers, because we have done work with biology. We're currently working on chemistry, and then at the end of this semester, next semester, we will work on physics of the universe. For social science is the only area where we have the exploration and research. And again, I will agree to this because social science has been like the last main curricular area that we have focused on, and this will be the focus for this year. And our social science teachers will actually be attending a conference to do a kickoff for implementation of the standards. The next survey asks about the instructional materials that are aligned. So for English, our instructional materials are actually novels, and our teachers have started reviewing novels that are more culturally relevant. For math, our standards are for math course 1, 2, and 3, our textbooks are aligned. However, the textbooks for the upper classes are pretty outdated, but we are working on adopting new textbooks for trig, pre-cal, statistics, and AP calculus, and that will be done at the end of this year. For science, again, we have adopted the biology textbook, which is NGSS aligned. We are working and looking at instructional materials for chemistry, but there's not that much available aligned materials right now for chemistry. So our teachers are thinking, they either pause and wait for a better material that is more aligned, because they just don't want to jump into something that is not good enough. For social science, again, we had begun working with the scope and sequence for world history, so we will be working on purchasing materials for world history, but after the scope and sequence has been created, because we don't want the textbook to dictate how the scope and sequence will be for our teachers. And the last question for the core areas is identifying areas where they can improve in delivering instruction. And this area actually has the widest range of responses. And it's mostly due to the differences in the meeting structures and the bell schedules and how collaboration is used from one site to another. And I believe that as we continue with work in working with our professional learning community, that this will improve. The fourth question asks the implementation of standards in career technical education, physical education, visual and performing arts, and world language. And again, it's really hard to make a claim when the participant numbers is just really low. And finally, the fifth question is they asked us to rate our district's success at engaging the following activities. So the first one is identifying professional learning needs for the group of teachers. And then the second one is identifying professional learning needs for individual teachers. And then the last one is providing support for teachers on the standards they have not mastered. So all of the teachers took this survey, and this survey basically says we are doing a better job of identifying the needs of a group of our teachers, but we do need to focus on supporting teachers on the standards that they have not met. And again, as I said, there are only 34 participants, and so what I would like to do is use this survey as a starting point for a curriculum council and bring it to our department chairs to bring it to their school site and have them assess and have a conversation on the results of this. And so once we have that, I will report, something a little different for next year, because we will have, more than 34 participants, and we will have an actual conversation and dialogue with our teachers. Some of the comments that teachers had made when they took the survey is that this year has been a vast improvement in the last few years. The district is starting to implement Common Core district-wide assessments at periodic intervals to determine the proficiency and level of students. We are beginning to try to develop reteaching and differentiated instruction practices, although we are currently in the initial stages. They also said it is evident that our school district is trying their very best to engage and prepare teachers for the implementation of the NGSS standards. And lastly, we're going in the right direction. So those have been the comments of our teachers.
So, what did you?
Oh, yeah, I was wondering, are these teachers all over from the district? Are they from certain schools, or where are the teachers coming from? For the,
They are from all of our school sites. Mm-hmm. And from all different curricular areas.
So for me, the slide number 5, because I would like to, whatever we could do to get more teachers involved in the survey, because is it the same teachers? Because to me, it's like the slides don't match, right? Because the first slides, they're saying they're getting everything that they need, but then this slide, more than half say identifying the professional learning needs of the group and teachers as a whole, the staff. More than half say we're in the exploration or beginning, but then when you go to the other slide, when you call out each individual thing, it's not reflective. Like 5 and the other ones, in my opinion, should be similar, not vastly apart. So from what I was gathering from that, are these 34 teachers that answered, like that to me is an indicator of the type of teacher you are, that you were took the time that took the survey. Those are the ones that come to all professional development. They take the time to do the survey, right? But when they're talking about the staff as a whole, then it turns into that. So what I don't want is what I think has happened in the past is that we take a handful of teachers and staff, they say this is the path, then we get further down the road and it's like, no, it didn't work for everybody. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like we do this repeatedly, and so I'm wondering, but at the same time, you know, again, that only 34 teachers took the survey, like, we need people to provide input so that we can make the proper decisions. So I don't know how it was delivered. I don't know, like, you know, what the expectation on, the understanding of this is going to LCAP and going to the board and they're using this to make decisions about future, you know, how was it communicated? How was it delivered? What was the expectation on completing it?
So I just want to say that I'm going to be honest that this was rolled out poorly because it was a last minute, you know, survey that was given maybe 2.5 weeks ago. The state had decided to basically move the due date a month in advance. And so, you know, things were just rolling up really, really fast. And I was like, oh, we have to report something. And I know that this is not sufficient at all. That's why I do want to bring it back to the staff and actually have a discussion on, like, you know, this is what 34 staff members had said. Is this true? Is this not true? So, you know, this is not the end of the survey, and I want to continue it, you know, towards the end of the year. And, you know, once we, maybe after the first semester, because we are doing a lot of programs and initiatives this semester.
So this is the CDE survey.
Yes.
And so just to, I'd love to, if once we, because they're not going to take this survey again, right? Not until the end of this year.
So ideally, what we would like is for this to actually perhaps mirror the LCAP cycle, so that by the end of the year, it will be, we have the report. So this survey will remain the same. Hopefully they don't change it. And I want to give it at the end of the year and really push for, you know, 80–90% participation of all of our teachers, because it's very important for us to know if we are making progress.
Actually, I'm glad you shared that piece about the survey just coming out 2 weeks ago, but actually it would have been nice if you'd actually noted it at the start of the presentation, because that really would have, because, you know, it's sort of all these alarm bells go off, right, when we see the 34 and all that, but knowing that, I think would, certainly, at least for me, would have helped me sort of understand why the data wasn't what we would have hoped that it would have been, you know, given the numbers, because, you know, when I look at the CTE numbers, you know, you can't really make any decisions based on 4 people.
Yes, and it's, you know, it's very hard knowing the improvements we've made on, you know, in CTE and all of these other courses. So it's not really indicative of where we are.
And so, is a survey from the state, is that just questions that they give us, or is it an actual tool that they have to use to?
It's an actual tool that I actually have to put in the numbers and report out.
Actually, I think they're good questions.
No, but I'm just saying, when it comes to, like, she's hoping they don't change the question.
Well, I hope they don't too.
Right, and so I was like, is there a way that we can just do our own survey, but if you have to implement it, you have to, it's gonna be too much work.
Well, part of this is the state's trying to standardize, because every district in the very beginning could come up with their own way of deciding how well they were doing on the implementation. So this is the state's way of getting the same kind of data from every district.
Yeah,
So
I get that. It's more like, is there a way, because we know the questions are gonna stay similar to this, like they may change. So is there a way that we can roll out our own survey and use that data so that even if it changes?
So that we can be better informed on how we make decisions.
Right, but I'm like, if there's a set tool that you have to use, I don't wanna create more work, is what, you know, that's what I was trying to get at, but it looks like there is a very rigid, okay. Never mind.
But we could do an additional, I mean, it would be great. And number 5, those 3 questions are so broad. And we have more and more teachers now who are aware of the need to differentiate, the need to reteach, the need to be culturally responsive, and they don't know how to do it, and they're asking for help on that. So taking a question like number 5 and letting them say, you know, where do you need help? would be a real good place to start, you know, when you talk about that. And the difference between question 1 and 5, it's not hard on question 1 when you've got a pacing document that tells you these are the things you have to teach this year. Okay, now I know. Which is much harder is making sure all your students learn all that, which is question number 5. And that's where I wish we had more resources to invest because.
Well, I think, but the question number 5, I mean, it says like, I don't know if they're that much different because it says identify the personal learning needs of groups of teachers and staff as a whole. If question 1 had been true for all the staff, then that part of question 5 should have rated higher.
I guess I see 1 as content and 5 as pedagogy. Maybe am I misreading that?
And it could also be, if we look at the count, you know, there are 9 English teachers in English that rated it higher, and then we're looking at 34 teachers. So the 9 teachers, or 9% of the teachers, could be the ones that scored it on the higher level on number 5.
Yeah. But it's still, like, math and science aren't that far away either. It's okay. Yeah. Like, it's still not, they're still vastly different, slides 1 and slide 5. And so I get what you're saying between content and pedagogy, but at the same time, one informs the other, right? So it shouldn't be this much of a difference.
One thing I'm noticing too, so I can add, is you're right, and I think it's important to point out, they're answering on behalf of themselves.
Right.
In the first 4 slides.
Yes.
This is them trying to speak for their colleagues in their departments, et cetera, and whoever, you know, wasn't able to show up for this preliminary bumped up evaluation. So like, literally, in the other slides, talking about one person is like 20% sometimes or whatever. So anyways, yeah, thank you for that.
And that was the main point I was trying to make, that it was more of that the people who take the survey are the ones that usually get it, and I think that slide 5 is. So I'm hoping that we don't base too much on the first slide, because slide 5 to me seems to be more indicative of we're speaking on behalf of all of us now, and slide 5 is saying there's need, like you said, there looks to be a need for help.
Can you go back to the first one? I'm not happy with this. The fact that almost a third of our math teachers, I mean, there's a belief that a third of them that were just at the beginning level. I mean, how long have we been working on? Since 2013? Yeah, you know, I'm concerned about that.
That's 7 teachers.
With 2 people.
And you could have had some newer teachers being the ones to actually respond as well. So that you know, so again, it's just that I think that the participation levels are just too low to really have an accurate assessment of that.
So this also, I think, I'm just hypothesizing, that when 20% of your staff is turning over, you're always going to have teachers who
are going to be in that box. Yeah.
To fix that problem.
Right. Any other questions or comments for Ms. Batra on this presentation?
We're still going.
She's got
Oh, that's right, that's right.
Okay.
I saw questions, threw me off.
We're gonna try to wrap it up.
It's not going to be able to talk.
No, I know.
Right, the third indicator is for parent engagement, and this is another CDE last minute change. So what they had created was they met with an ad hoc family engagement meeting. So in March of 2019, they adopted a new tool. And they were expecting us to use the tool. And again, this is a last minute. There was just no way for us to take the survey in April and then in May and then present it, because it was just really new. So they are trying to measure the building of the relationships between school staff and families, building partnerships for student outcomes, and seeking input for decision making. We use, again, the California Department of Education survey plus the California Parent School Survey. So this is the survey that is parallel to the California Healthy Kids survey. So these are the types of questions for building relationships. So developing the capacity of staff to build trusting and respectful relationships with families, creating welcoming environments for all families in the community, supporting staff to learn about each family's strengths, cultures, languages, and goals for their children, and developing multiple opportunities for LEAs, school sites to engage in a two-way communication between families and educators using the language that is understandable and accessible to families. So when I first saw this survey, I just don't think that our families will really understand what
any of that means?
No.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And so I talked with Dr. Deloria. At first, we were going to send it out to the families, and I was like, there's no way that I can, with good conscience, send this out to families.
They'll never open another email from us.
Well, I was laughing. I was like, I would love to see what they were saying about developing multiple opportunities for the LEA and schools, like two-way communication between. You're like, what is that sentence?
So what we had done is, again, combine some of the questions from the California Parent Survey, and our administrators actually took this survey with the actual questions and thought, see what they thought where we are as far as building relationships. And we are, around the beginning exploration and research phase for building relationships. The second part is about building partnerships for student outcomes. And again, the questions are still very, very complex. So providing professional learning and support to teachers and principals to improve a school's capacity to partner with families. Providing families with information and resources to support student learning and development in the home. Implementing policies or programs for teachers to meet with families and students to discuss student progress and ways to work together to support improved student outcomes, and supporting families to understand and exercise their legal rights and advocate for their own students and all students. And
so, when I got this presentation over the weekend, I should have emailed you questions, but every slide I had 63 questions. I was like, I don't even understand this. So is this supposed to go to students?
So this is what I'm supposed to submit to the state of California. So these are the questions where I have to rate us either exploration and research, beginning, initial, full implementation, depending on multiple sources.
But who was the target audience for the survey?
Yeah, parents.
Parents.
This is still parents answering.
This is parent engagement.
No, we didn't ask parents.
Right.
So rather than the CDE had its own survey for parents.
This is it.
But we did not give that to the parents. So we took what surveys that we had and gleaned from that what numbers to put in.
Yes. In addition to the responses of our administrators when they look at these actual surveys. So it's a combination.
What they think how the parents would respond.
Yes.
So those are the administrators' views of how they're interacting with parents.
Yes.
So
Because,
it's really not the parents.
Because some of them providing professional learning and support to teachers, I just don't know how a parent would really know what kind of professional learning is being provided.
But the administrators didn't score us very high on these. I mean, this is a little higher on this one, but that first slide were low scores.
And so again, I guess I'm still struggling with, if these are the questions from the state, right? And if it's okay for us, I'm hearing what you said, what you did for this, is it okay to do that for all of the survey questions, taking the core meaning of it and then reinterpreting it so we can get some actual data that everybody can use and then plugging it back into this? Okay.
Yeah, because
It'd be great if you could write those in a family-friendly way.
Well, we have to.
Right.
I mean,
We have to.
May I interject?
My understanding is that in the past, on the local indicators, LEAs were allowed to come up with their own way.
That's true.
Of,
Used to be.
right. So in the past, there were guidelines. You had to use certain tools. You had to use the PTA tool for the parenting. But my understanding is that this time, 2 weeks ago, they said you have to use this other tool. You can't choose. So
I have to answer these
you have
questions.
to answer these questions, but you have to use their tool.
But, yes.
You have to use their tool, or you can use any tool.
I have to answer these questions based on tools that we may have, at a combination of tools.
So you don't have to use
So-
a prescribed tool. That's not what the new.
So this one, I don't have to give this to parents. And that's one of the reasons why I was comfortable in using the California Parent Survey, which is,
May I back up one minute?
yeah,
So this isn't the tool. There was another tool.
that is the only tool provided to me by CDE where I
Okay,
have to
so
rate
they didn't
us.
change the survey that you're giving me. Okay, thank you.
And this also came just 2 weeks ago.
Yes, so I learned about this during our meeting at the San Mateo County Office of Education and said, oh, there's a change.
And they just learned about it too, so it wasn't just.
Yeah.
And again, this was, adopted by CDE in March of 2019, hoping that, we would implement it during our LCAP cycle in the spring when it was already completed. So it didn't really make sense for
But
us
the info
to.
didn't get to you till 2 weeks ago, didn't get to you in March.
Well, and they moved up the date by a month,
Right.
so that you had to report it by.
Thank you.
And the last one is seeking input for decision-making. Again, these are the things that I have to answer to the state of California. And based on the California Parent Survey, and by the way, there were 209 participants, parent participants from that survey from last year. Questions about that? The last one, or not the second to the last one, is about school climate. And this again measures the perception of school safety and connectedness in at least one grade within the grade span served. So we used the California Healthy Kids Survey, and we surveyed 9th and 11th grade students last year. So there were 833 ninth grade participants and 788 11th grade participants, and those are the participation rates. And the last one is Thornton High School, and they will refer to Thornton High School as NT in the next table. So these are the key indicators of school climate and well-being. So as you can see, over a little half of participants agree or strongly agree that students feel some kind of connection with the school. The percentage is lower in the 11th grade than in the 9th grade, and there's 73% of students at Thornton who felt connected to the school. So some of the statements in this category includes, I feel close to people at this school, I'm happy to be at this school, and I feel safe at this school. For academic motivation, there's 71% of 9th grade students agreed or strongly agreed. And again, it decreased slightly among the 11th grade students. And some of the statements in this category includes, I try hard to make sure that I am good at my schoolwork, and I am always trying to do better in my schoolwork. Truancy is also an indicator of engagement, and this data, of course, is self-reported. And looking at this data, most of the absence results were because the students were ill, followed by not getting enough sleep. For caring adult relationships, some of the questions include, there is a teacher or some other adult that cares about me, or who notices me when I'm not there, and who listens to me when I have something to say. And as you can see, there's 59% in the 9th grade and 57% in the 11th grade and 71% at Thornton. For high expectations, it includes statements such as, there is a teacher or some other adult who tells me when I do a good job, or who always wants me to do my best and who believes I will be a success. For meaningful participation at school, it means that students do interesting activities, they do things that make a difference, and that they have a say in how things work, and they help decide school or class activities or rules. And as you can see, this is an area to address as only 26% of the students agree or strongly agree. And the facilities upkeep is whether their facilities are maintained. Any questions about this one?
Do we share, how does this data get out to the adults at the school sites?
So the California Healthy Kids Survey right now, it has not been shared with our school sites, but it's something that we can share with the principals. I think we could also post it on the website as well. So this is the district level, but each of the school site has their own. And the last one is access to a broad course of study. And again, this is annually measuring the progress where students have access to and enrolled in a broad course of study. And we are using the A through G rate, but we're not just looking at all students, but we're looking at student groups as well. And as you can see, there was an overall decrease in the A through G rate in all of the subgroups except for African American. But what is really striking is that there is, again, to no surprise, there is a gap between Asian students and African Americans and Latino students. What we are doing to address this is, so this was presented last year and we're continuing everything on this list, and the equity work that is led by our Board of Trustees will actually help us in creating policies and procedures that will support the needs of all of our students. And lastly, some of the next steps is to share this information to our administrators, staff, and parents. Use the results of Priority 2. This is about the standards to drive discussion during curriculum council meetings. That's when the department chairs meet here at the district level. Also develop policies during the equity task force meetings to address issues of equity, post-secondary planning for students. And like what Dr. Deloria was saying earlier, if we don't have teachers, it will be really hard to implement the plans that we have. And finally, continue working with Circle Up to address relations and bias. That is it.
So, and then I can look into this myself, but is there any indication from the CDE, like when is the tinkering on this thing going to stop? I mean, this is ridiculous. How do we ever, like, you can't do these things overnight. It takes years, and if we don't have a point, a target to shoot for, if they keep changing the target every year, I don't know how you're supposed to do any of these things. And so that's why I'm wondering, like, is there a way that we can just create our own and just whatever we like, because some of these questions are all to me like, yeah, they make sense, they're common sense questions. Is there a way that we could just develop a plan that we can just stick to and then plug that plan in, which I know that they were like dinging some of the higher basic aid districts for doing that at the beginning. Like they were just sticking their 3-year plans into the LCAP. But now I'm like, we tried, right? I mean, we gave it a full effort to try to at least with the spirit, try to do everything to the spirit of what the CDE wants us to do. But to send things, you know, within weeks and try to get that turned around, especially with the diverse community that we're working with, like we need to get translation, there's all these different things. So I'm wondering, is there a path that we can just say, this is our path, and we'll try to fill in the blanks with what they hand us every year so that we don't have to keep changing course all the time?
So I think what we can do is, you know, use the survey as our guiding point and perhaps ask additional questions that we can continue year after year, because, you know, I don't see it, it's going to keep changing. So on Thursday, I'll be at the county office for the new LCAP development workshop because there's going to be changes on the LCAP. I don't know what that will look like, but again, year after year after year, it's just like chasing something that I cannot
It's
catch.
an impossible target, right? There, we're having us playing Quidditch, and that was my geek reference for the night. And yeah, we don't have time. Like, we don't have the time and staff to keep doing this. So, and I would like.
And we lose credibility with staff.
Right.
Right. I mean, that's a real problem at the site. You've got the principal trying to, I asked the question about the Healthy Kids Survey. We're trying to find time for the teachers to have more quality time to sit down and collaborate and work on these things. And yet, how do you work with all of our staff on how do you improve that rate on, I have at least one adult in my life, or is our school safe, or all those, there's so much here. There's just not enough time to work on all of it. I wish we could just focus it down to a couple of things.
Right.
But it's not just on the LCAP. I learned today that now they're changing the template for all of the districts on their special ed plans. They have to rewrite it to fit in their template. So now it's starting in special ed.
And then my other question is, so for the indicators on the dashboard, like our graduation indicator is still off.
So the state indicator is not updated yet.
Not
So this
updated
is
yet.
from
Just local right now.
just the local right now, and then we should be getting the state indicator probably around November, and then I'll do a presentation.
Okay, and then, so what happens, for example, so the local indicators are still just going to the county?
It's going to the dashboard,
It's
the
going to the
actual
dashboard.
dashboard. So right here.
And the very first, those things will all be updated in the
Mm-hmm.
So what happens with if our local indicators fall below for the dashboard multiple years?
For the local indicators, really the only requirement is that we annually measure it and that we report it to the Board of Trustees. And then if we do those things and I update it on their website, then we would have met the standard. So those are really the only requirements.
It's a process, it's not the quality.
It's not the quality. It's annually measuring its progress, whether we report it to the board, and I have to go to their CDE website and, start clicking things and submit. And when I do that, it will be standard met.
Oh, okay, that opens up a whole other thing. Okay, good to know.
So the other indicators, again, will be reported in the next few weeks when it comes out. So I'm hoping that, for local, it will always be met, as long as we report it to the board. But again, locally, we should have some kind of baseline and to see if we are really improving year after year.
And so we're gonna have our LCAP work study where we could dive into this part a little bit more in January. Okay, so I'll just wait for that. Thank you.
It's good to see that the Healthy Kids Survey participation rates were high, so we know that's good data and really speaks well to Thornton in particular, especially when we talk about school connectedness and motivation and the parent-adult relationships, all of that stuff. That's where the size of the school and then its nimble size is really able to connect with so many kids. So that's actually a really great thing to see. That, again, so kudos there, certainly.
We can actually name
right
the people who are making
exactly,
a
and
difference.
so that's really great to see. But and you can sort of see that even between 9th and 11th grade, the variation in numbers isn't that great. So there's a lot of work to do just over those 2 years.
So next year will be interesting. So the California Healthy Kids Survey and the California Parent Survey is one standard tool that we've been using for a few years now. So at the end of in the spring, the 9th grade students would be 11th grade students. So it will be interesting to see how they responded in the 9th grade and then in the 11th grade. So we're looking at the cohort of students.
I have a question. Yeah, going back to the A through G rate slide.
of class 2017 and class of 2018. I saw that the Pacific Islander statistics for the class of 2018 wasn't present. I was wondering if that was just a typo or if there was something up there.
So the state doesn't give us information if there are less than 10 Pacific Islander students. So for the class of 2018, there were less than 10 Pacific Islanders.
That identified, like.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Ms. Baca. Thank you. Really good presentation.
And a lot of turnaround
there
for
Yep.
very short work lead
Yep.
time, so.
Working our weekends.
I'm sorry, apologize to your daughter for us.
All right, item.
For a happy limit.
Okay, moving on to administration 15B, we have assorted board policies and ARs 15B1 through 15B6. Dr. Deloria.
And so the one I would want to point out, you remember we had questions last year at graduation ceremonies. There seemed to be some confusion about this. So now our policy is very clear that students are allowed to use tribal or cultural. They can wear that with their robes. So I will be sending this out to all of our administrators tomorrow to say, well, not tomorrow, the next board meeting when you approve them. Reminding them about that. I'm guessing Ms. Baca will have to do this several times. What I don't want to get is any email in May. Why can't my child wear? I'd like to be able to not have that happen this year.
Comments or questions from the board? Okay. Item 16, consideration of future agenda items.
I think, well, only because I rode BART this morning, I saw a parent, and the first thing she asked me was, what is going to happen with the late start time? Because I have to drop off my child at school 45 minutes early so I can get to work by 8.
What grade is her child?
It is a sophomore.
Yeah, it's not gonna affect her.
Yeah, but still, the question's out there.
We'll have to, yeah, we'll throw out something
Yeah,
definitely to discuss it.
You know, it's on parents' minds all the
Yep, agreed.
It does exclude the 0 period, so that.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
It
we
doesn't
should,
come with any additional funding, so it's.
I mean, I don't know if we need to, because if we agenda, I don't know, we would,
Informational?
what, for the board?
I think we might want to work with the principals first and.
Yeah, that's
kind of-
because I was thinking that, I think that there should probably be a communication to parents, like,
Yeah.
because they're all seeing that it was on
Right.
CNN.
Yeah, I think.
So that it's not
communication
like
with parents.
tomorrow. Right,
And
like
it
they
does say
did.
2022, 2023
Right.
school
Yeah,
year.
yeah, so that's.
So I mean, just some of those communications would be helpful.
Yeah, I think that would be better than, because, you know, just to let them know that we're thinking about it.
We can do something on that.
All right, and so before we adjourn, a couple of things to honor, a couple of people to honor tonight. We will be adjourning tonight's meeting in honor of 2 persons. Bob Bulalhati, who taught at Jefferson, Westmore, and San Francisco State, as well as coached football, cross country, and track and field. At Jefferson and Westmore, he coached teams to 3 league titles. Dr. Lahati went to Skyline College in 1970, where he produced 14 community college All-Americans and 2 Olympians. He captured 2 track and field state championships and 4 Coast Conference championships in track and field, and 2 in cross country. He served as Skyline's athletic director and is a member of the Athletic Halls of Fame at Skyline, Daly City, San Mateo County, and San Francisco State. Coach was passionate about physical education and fitness and was a man of integrity with a no-nonsense attitude. He passed away on September 29th. We send our condolences to his family and friends. Also, Lorraine Johnson, grandmother of JUHSD Administrative Assistant, HR, and Staff Relations Chelsea Johnson, passed away on October 8th, 2019. Mrs. Johnson was married and had 4 sons. She was 99 years young and has a twin of whom is still living. She loved to ice skate, hike, go camping, read, take road trips, and watch top shows. Mrs. Johnson will be missed. We send our condolences to the Johnson family, along with their loved ones and friends. Is there a motion to adjourn? All those in favor? Aye. All right. Meeting adjourned at 9:14 p.m.
Extra credits. Hung out to the end.
Huh?
Johnson.
Minute.
Oh, so, like, so